I just watched Chloe Grace Moretz in Kayla the movie, occasionally featuring Tom and Jerry. It's basically about Chloe Grace Moretz plays a girl from New York who gets a job at a hotel from lying and scheming her way to the top, and she's out of her depth and she needs to plan this. There's this wedding that's going on in the hotel with a big rich couple are getting married, but there's a mouse running around and it's her job to catch the mouse, and the mouse is Jerry from Tom and Jerry, and then Tom from Tom and Jerry is also in the film. Chloë Grace Moretz has a very interesting career, I think, because it very clearly does the thing that some actors do, where you do like one for me, one for my career, like one film that's genuinely very good and you're going to put a lot of effort into, but it might not necessarily be seen. It'll be more indie and you won't get paid very much for. And then one film which will be very high budget and you'll be paid a lot for, but is probably going to be terrible. And this is very much the latter category for Chloë Grace Moretz. And the rest of the cast is, you can tell that they didn't write in the script very much personality for everyone. They just cast a person and went, right, do your thing, do your shtick. Because originally Michael Pena plays like the second in command of the hotel, and they originally wanted Peter Dinklage for that part, and if they'd cast Peter Dinklage it would have been a completely different part. It's very obvious that they just want them to do their thing. Ken Jeong does Ken Jeong's thing. He is literally just Chang from Community, but he plays some chef that doesn't really need to be in it. The characters are quite bad. They try and do a romance thing for Kayla, Chloë Grace Moretz's character. There's another guy, I think he's working at the bar in the hotel. It's so forced just because they're like, oh, it's a movie, we ought to have a romance. You feel nothing towards the two of them together. Like he's got no personality. He's just a bloke. There is just nothing to him. But I mean, it's from director Tim Story, he's not got the best career ever. I don't know if this is just me, it might just be me, but I got the impression from it that due to Tom and Jerry's past, I mean, it was created in 1940, and so there's been some stuff throughout the years which isn't very favourable today. Obviously, Mammy Two Shoes, who is the person who's, well, I always thought growing up, like, she was just a woman who owned the house. Turns out she's like a black servant caricature. I didn't realise that, but yeah. So she's like a racist caricature. And then they always did this bit where someone would blow up in Tom's face and he'd look like a minstrel from all the soot. And so they've got a bad past. It seemed to me, I might just be reading something out of nothing, but it seemed like they tried to go too much like, hey, we're not racist anymore. Hey, look, we love black people. So they hired... I don't know if that's why they hired a black director. It might not be, but I mean, the fact that there's lots of music throughout. There's loads of tracks, and every single one is by a black artist, and there's just loads. It felt to me like the dad from Get Out when he's like, I would have voted for Obama a third time. As I said, Tom and Jerry has been going on since 1940. I mean, how many slapstick jokes really are there? I can't think of that many. They redoing this. I mean, I haven't seen Tom and Jerry since I was a kid, and I can still remember, in this, there's a bunch of gags they do which I remember from my childhood. I remember Tom and Jerry doing this. Like they did Tom getting knocked out, and then Jerry walks in through one ear and then out the other ear, and you can see his eyes are like windows. And they did the bumping the big dog on the head, and then a big bump comes up, and then they push down that bump and it comes up another place. And they also did the bit where Jerry's pretending to look in his hands at something small, and Tom's like, oh, what are you looking at? And he gets close to it, and Jerry's about to show him, and he punches him in the face. I remember all those. They're not doing anything new, really. The film is kind of like Who Framed Roger Rabbit in that it's live action, but there's the animals are cartoons, but this isn't 2D animation. It's 3D, but they're trying to make it look like the style of the old cartoons. But it's a bit hit and miss. Sometimes it looks pretty good. But then there's the gang of street cats look terrible. The main one is abysmal because they're trying to look like that style of cartoon. That means they can't be very detailed, and so sometimes they just look so dated. They just look like they're just not textured at all. They I don't know. Sometimes the lighting works on them very well. They interact with the scene well. I think a film like this is strange because it's so obvious that it's gonna turn out the way it did. I mean, when I saw this was first announced about a year ago, like a live action Tom and Jerry thing, I knew it was going to be bad. I could tell straight away, that's probably going to get about 20% on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. It's not, probably won't get that much, it probably won't be that popular because, I mean, it's not really very relevant. You can tell how it's going to go. So it's weird how they're going to probably be surprised when inevitably bombs and people don't like it very much. If you can't tell, I didn't think the film was very good. I will say though, I cheered like you wouldn't believe when Ajay from the Basil Brush show showed up as the bride's dad. That made me very excited because he was scene-stealingly great in Basil Brush. But no, the film as a whole, I'd give it 2 stars. It was watchable, but it wasn't very good. It was inoffensive, but it wasn't very good.